Right. If you are, I can't even do this again. If you are listening on your podcast app, there is an icebreaker episode just before this with Toby. Toby? I've just said your brother's name because he texted me. Just before this with Ollie. I suggest you go back and listen to that icebreaker before rolling to this. You don't have to, but it's a suggestion. If not, stay where you are now. And welcome to the live people watching the live stream. Thank you for alerting me just now that there was no audio. We're having to start again. And I see all the questions coming in, and I will be popping those to Ollie either during the episode or at the end. So let's go again. Ollie Osbourne, Warrior Wellness Movement. Welcome to H Hour.
Oh, greetings for the third time.
We were laughing because we were fully involved in a very emotive discussion.
Yeah, it was good
on health and well-being,
and Power Reg and the obsession with shit. We don't need to say that one again.
No, I did wonder. Yeah, that's a good point actually. There was definitely a few minutes dedicated to the quirkiness of two para. Anyway, let's start again. So we were talking in the icebreaker about health and wellness and all the rest of it, and so I do want to revisit this bit of the conversation again, if that's all right. So the way the world is at the minute, medicine, our ability to treat medicine, identify illnesses, manage illnesses, I think it's a great thing. But unfortunately, I think it makes it much more forgiving for people to be able to get away, ignore their mental state, their physical state, and basically live life with illnesses or ailments or subpar existence in their well-being. Get away with it. I want to say get away with it. I mean, they're basically living life in discomfort, right? And just accepting of it. In that ill-fated 10 minutes we just recorded, you were talking about someone who has a headache, takes paracetamol or cures it, as opposed to asking why are you getting a headache in the first place? Why? There's this misconception at the moment, not at the moment, misconception on for a long time and will continue, that any illness or ailment that you've got, you need to seek external help to deal with that, which I don't think is correct. What do you think, Ollie?
I wasted all my good speech and everything.
We're doing it all again,
mate. Try to remember it. I was saying that, did you Google Blue Zones, by the way?
I did. Explain the Blue Zones.
Right, Blue Zones. Is it called Blue Zones? Did I get it right? It was on Netflix.
Blue Zones. A Blue Zone is a place in the world which has seems to have a higher life expectancy. Yeah, and you were talking about a series called Blue Zone.
Yeah,
right?
It was on Netflix, and I'm sure you can still find it. And I said most things on Netflix are absolute garbage, but this one was really good. And it was a guy that went around to different corners of the globe, around the world, looking at why the life expectancy was 100 years old and good quality of life, not just hanging out, but good quality of life. And the conclusion, spoiler alert, for those who've not watched it, was there was no magic pill. There was no answer other than movement, lifestyle, stress levels, holistic health, nutrition, happiness, meditation, mindfulness, all these buzzwords, which are all really simplistic. But when you put them together, they create this enormous effect of holistic health, hence what I do, Warrior Wellness Movement, a little bit of a plug. But it was a fascinating program. And it was kind of like, right, so we know this, so why are we not doing it? Now, you said, Hugh, that there's obviously some places in the world that you can obviously do that. You can't here in London to the same effect as they do in some weird and wonderful place in Indonesia or something. But it was fascinating. And I was talking about the concept of having a headache. And I'm a man who will not take anything. And I said, don't get me started on the last 5 years and all the nonsense that happened. And I got a very strong opinion about that. But yeah, taking a paracetamol, I'm not saying I don't ever take a paracetamol, but taking a paracetamol is just to stop the pain in your head. Let's say you got a headache. It's not curing the headache. The body is dealing with that, and the body should cope with that over time. So the point to the story is there, stop papering over the cracks, go after the source, not the symptom when it comes to pain. You're talking to a man who's had multiple surgeries across my body, like a broken biscuit or a wet Kit Kat. But medicine, whilst it's good, it has a lot to answer for with Big Pharma and just dishing out medicine willy-nilly instead of going after the root cause of holistic health. And why are people suffering? You're gonna suffer degenerative diseases at some point. And of course, there's a luck of the draw element and there's hereditary diseases and things. I get that. But if you can look after yourself in a way that's going to prevent diseases from not being overweight, from reducing stress, from staying hydrated, for not putting shite in your body, from movement, being strong, bone health, bone density, gut health, yada, yada, the list goes on, you've got a much better fighting chance of living a quality life and not relying on pills and potions.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. The hereditary, hereditary illness or disease, and I certainly say look at the draw stuff. I'd say if you know, out of I say most of the factors that influence whether you're going to develop a significant disease or illness, most of the factors that influence that are within your control. I say they're totally within your control. You on the subject of buzzwords, the word holistic, that I think has got a negative stigma attached to it by many people, because I think it's been totally misused in the past. And you go, holistic, it's airy fairy holistic, and the reality is it's actually pardon the pun, it's like a no brainer when it comes to physical and mental health. We see, for some reason, when we perceive our own health, we categorize it into two different things, as if they're two different entities: body and mind, and they are not. They're like the same thing. I know you know this. Preachers are converted, and I actually had this conversation with my youngest daughter. I think it was yesterday, the day before yesterday, and she was asking. She's in a GCSE year, and she was asking, "Oh, why, Daddy, when people are doing." Dad, not Daddy, she's too old for Daddy. It was Dad. Why, Dad? Do people who do like trials for medicine, when some are in the control group and they're taking the placebo, why do some of them like seem to get better for a period of time when they're not taking anything? And then I try to explain, well, because the mind can influence the body. It goes the other way. The body can influence the mind, and she's trying to wrap her head around it. It's like literally. Sorry. The body can influence the mind. You bump your arm, you break something. At the very least, that impacts your emotion. You're happy, you burn yourself with hot water. You're sad, and it goes the other way. Your emotional state, your mind, your mental well-being, it can influence you physically. We know this. People who suffer depression, people who've got chronic anxiety, people who are just a little bit sadder, even for temporary periods of time, they're more susceptible to developing physiological ailments simply because of a change in their psychology. And so the term holistic is absolutely accurate. Like, it needs to be reclaimed as hey, this is the fucking reality of it. You don't want to become physically ill, treat your brain better as well as your body.
But this is what we do. So within Warrior Wellness Movement, the holistic approach to health, wellness, and performance, as it says on my top here, that's the logo. The holistic approach to health, wellness, and performance. And people say to me, "What's holistic? What does that mean?" And it means so many things, but it just means like I always use this phrase. You'll love this one. We've led very aggressive lifestyles, stacks of smoke straight down the middle, aggressive in what we do in our lives, previous careers, how we work now, whether it's in business and that. We need to take a step back. Going to the gym is not enough. Doing a bit of exercise is not enough. Eating a little bit of good food is not enough. Holistic health is about everything that you do in your life. When people come onto my program, I say to them, you've got to invest. And I don't mean financially. Of course I do, but I don't mean that. I mean, you've got to invest emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, socially. All those aspects cover holistic health. How your relationships are with your children, with your boss, with your colleagues, as a leadership team, with your partner, how you go about your daily task, how you live your life. We talk about exercise, talk about nutrition, mindset, stress levels, mindfulness, taking time out. This is all holistic. The whole approach to health and wellness and how you live your life. And I try and live that as a leader of my business and as a coach, and I'm far from perfect, but I'm learning as I go. And I'm learning from my two coaches that work with me. One does cognitive behavioral therapy, one does nutritional therapy, and we combine together to create this holistic approach. They came into my business, Will Petty and Hazel Davies, two amazing people. They came into my business back in June last year, and they introduced me to this holistic approach because I was a bit like, airy fairy, what's all this about? And I just got it. And I got it. And it goes back to my time when I was in rehabilitation in the military. They were trying to get us to do something similar back then, but I was too defensive back then. I was too like, that it wasn't sold to me well enough. But I get it now. I get it that, like I said, going to the gym is not enough. That's
Why do you think we're at a point where we're having to teach people the Billy basics? We have to teach people look after yourself. Why do you think we're at that point in the first place?
Because of the
This is stuff we used to know.
Yeah.
Intrinsically.
Yeah. Pressures of life. Here we are in a big city. Pressures of life, financial stresses, the pressure of bringing up children. You must know this, bringing up your kids, a bit older than mine, but fucking hard, right? Making the right decisions, being a good role model, being a good parent. It's pressure in job, pressure in society, pressure in what people perceive we should be. And I think, the fast food available on, all the time, the shortcuts to everything now, isn't it? Technology, which is great, it's fantastic. I'm not knocking it, but it's changed our way of living. We're now moving out of that generation of people that, that say things like, "Oh, wasn't like that in my day." Yeah, but things have changed, haven't they? We now work with AI and technology and that. We've got to roll with it. But it's just, everything's become easier. So we move less. 67% of the UK are obese. I think 67% of the UK. That's mental.
How are they measuring that though? Is that
probably BMI. Oh, BMI's out of date.
I'm obese according to the BMI.
No, but listen, so am I. But we are.
Yeah, but
listen,
you are obese.
But you walk down the high street, you don't need to have any stats or figures in front of you to just go, "Now, people are not in good shape.
No.
People are not well." And also this concept, look, going off on my ear, this concept of what's in good shape. We're not talking chiseled, ripped models, bodybuild. No, that's the extreme level. We're talking what would be normal, low levels of fat, not having a piss tank on you, not having a big arse, not having unacceptable fat levels. And I'm not having a go. I'm just saying it how it is. We are unhealthy. We are sedentary. People get out of breath walking up the stairs. People make poor choices. People don't hydrate. People drink too much coffee, too much. You could go on and people are in denial. Oh, I'm all right. You're not. You're not. This is not normal because the norm of society has gone to such a level now where I'm trying to influence people to bring that base level back. It's like your minimum standard. The minimum standard should be here, but the norm just keeps dropping.
Yeah.
And people are not well. And that's why people keep getting these diseases and relying on pills.
Yeah, I mean, one of the major things I think that has changed. If you think about the generations before us, like boomer generation, and they were growing up in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Their level of health was definitely, I mean, I'm speculating here. I'd say it was definitely better than what we are now. And the only major thing I can see that's changed, because one thing that has changed over the last 5 years, 10 years, I think, maybe longer than that, compared to that period of time, 60s, 70s, 80s, is the fitness and well-being industry. I would like to say there are more people who go to the gym, for example, just focus on the gym, go to the gym or run, for example, regularly now, percentage of people than there was then. I'm speculating, but that's what I think. But at the same time, the quality of diet has gone down the pan. Walk into a supermarket and have a look at what percentage of the consumable foods and drinks that are on sale there are actually healthy. Or let's go flip it the other way. Not healthy. Look at the percentage that are unhealthy. Contain just at the very least, contain a high amount of sugar. At the very least, just looking at that. It is crazy.
Yep.
Aisles and aisles dedicated to crisps,
Yep.
confectionery, sugary drinks.
All on offer as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's mental. So, and again, that shitty diet has become normalized. And then you go a stage further. What's happened over the last few years is a move towards processed foods, less natural foods, less whole foods. Yeah. Wild. And the war on meat. Wild what's going on. And I think that is must be one of the biggest contributors to people's ill health or likelihood of developing, a shitty disease. Poor lifestyle and normalizing, putting crap in your body.
But there you go. We've not reinvented the wheel here. You've just identified the problem. The problem is ultra high processed foods that you just talked about, which is just everywhere. And I'm not saying don't ever eat that, by the way, but it's just understanding what the norm is and what the minimum standard and what the minimum requirement is to how to live healthy. So food choices, like we just spoke about, and the other one is technology. And like I just said, no, I get it. Technology is how we've advanced, but those two things has made us more sedentary and less mobile and eating crap. So going back to my gym comment, there's hundreds of millions of gyms out there. There's lots of trainers, there's lots of coaches, there's lots of programs, there's lots of this. But going to the gym for 45 minutes a day is not enough when you're sat on your ass like we are right now. It's not. We're not digging holes in the road. We're not mega active in society. The classic one, I've used this loads, and being in London, escalators, walk up them. You don't have to walk up the stairs. I get that. It's a long way on the tube station. Plus it's hot and you're sweating and you're in your suit. But do something. Don't just stand on your phone on the escalator like this, looking at shite. Because don't tell me you're working. You're not working.
I walk escalators. I walk up escalators.
Yeah, walk up the escalator.
Yeah.
Look at people. I love this one. Look at people in London. They think you're mad, but look at people. Smile. That's holistic health, right? Get out your own head and yeah, walk up the escalators. Get moving. But that's not going to change the world. But that's a small percentage that you can add in to what you're doing to be more active. Think about it, right? Most people get out of bed, sit downstairs, have a coffee, have some cereal, okay? Drive to work, sat on their ass, go on the tube, sat on their ass, whatever, might have a short little walk, get to work, sit on your ass, lunch break, sit on your ass. See the theme here? End of the day, sit in the car, sit on the tube, sit on the whatever, get home, go to the gym for 45 minutes if you're lucky, brilliant. Probably sat down on a machine doing that. Go home, sit down, have dinner. In the evening, sit down, watch TV, and we wonder why we're overweight. It's mad. We've got to move.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're not digging holes in the road.
Yeah.
I'm a coach. I'll sit down. I've got a stand-up desk. Game changer.
I have, yeah.
That's for my hips.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how much movement you do. Get more energy standing up as well.
Yeah, it's true. And then most of the stuff that people are eating today is, again, it's all sugar, high carbs, high processed, high sugar. You know?
But the thing is as well, right? Everyone knows this. People know this, right? Go back onto my program. When I have a consultation call with someone and they tell me what they're trying to do, and I say, why can't you get there? Because I say to them, you're a 55-year-old, whatever you are, busy human being who knows that a banana is healthier than a pizza in its most ridiculous form, right? You know what is healthy. You know you've got to move more. You know how to do this. Why can't you do it? And the answer is behavioral change. And this is why I brought in a CBT guy, cognitive behavioral therapy. So we look at behavioral change. People know how to exercise. People know how to eat. Behavioral change. Why can't you do it? Why do you keep self-sabotaging? Why do you use self-destruction? Why are you not nice to yourself? Why? Because of behavioral change. Because somebody that comes on that's in their 50s have got half a century of poor habits. Okay, not when they're a baby, but they've built up poor habits in this busy lifestyle that we lead. We've just spoken about sedentary behaviors. So people have got shocking, myself included, and it's always a constant battle. I'm not perfect. I self-destruct, I self-sabotage, military, poor relationships with alcohol, suffered massively in the past. But I'm not talking Jack Daniels in the morning, but I'm talking like a lot of beers most nights of the week. So this is self-destruction, self-sabotage behaviors that we display. And that's why we need therapies of all sorts of description. We need coaching, cognitive behavioral therapy. Otherwise, we'd all be in good shape and healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons people struggle with this, I think most people, like, and there will, I think I'd say there's probably definitely people listening to this who recognize in themselves that there's some way they should be improving themselves. There's something to change. They're unhappy about something. And to be honest, that's most people. None of us think we're perfect, right? None of us think, oh, everything's squared away. Or we always think, I need to change something. I need to improve something here or there. I think most people think that. But I think what happens to a lot of people is that two things. One is that the topic or the subject or the area that they're thinking about is deliberately super complicated by an industry.
Yeah.
Right? Turn into something where it's super difficult to understand and therefore you shouldn't be trying to approach that and improve it in a simple way. And the second reason is that I think that people try and bite off more than they can chew. So you're doing no fitness now. You want to get fit, right? Well, the answer to that is not setting yourself the goal of 2 hours in the gym 3 or 4 days this week or whatever. It's like just to try and do more than what you're doing now. Or you want to improve your diet. But the answer is not all of a sudden overnight change from what you're eating now, change it tomorrow to something drastically different because your body's not going to cope well with it, and it's probably unachievable for you. You got to set yourself smart targets, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic timing. And most people don't do that. They have the intent, but they don't have the understanding of how to get to where they want to be, and they have to accept that this isn't a quick process. You're trying to change your health, especially trying to improve it. You are starting at a disadvantage. You're starting at a disadvantage mentally. Because if you are unhappy with yourself, there's probably a physiological and a mental reason for that, right? Apart from obviously the emotional reason that you're unhappy with yourself, which makes it harder to achieve things that you think are out of your reach or very far away. And you have to understand that it's a long process. It takes fucking effort.
Yeah.
The behavior change, like you said, so difficult for people to do, especially when we have this misconception that we haven't got enough time to do it. I haven't got enough time to do X, Y, or Z. Yeah, you have. Put your phone down. You're spending all of your spare time. All of your spare time is spent on a phone. Guarantee it. Or 95% of your spare time is spent on a phone. I think it's a question of where is the ROI on the time you spend, the effort you're spending, where you're putting your attention.
You have to be, for someone to change, you have to want it. Go back to saying, what's your why? Simon Sinek, great saying, but what's your why? Why do you want to do something? You have to, because not everyone will. There will be people out there going, "No, I'm happy, don't give a shit, it's fine." And that's cool. But the people that do want to change, why are they not doing it? Why are they in boom or bust? Like, why do they start and they last X amount of days or weeks? Classic New Year's, Easter's another good one. This last couple of weeks has been people coming back in after Easter and they don't last. Why? Behavioral change, biting off more than they can chew. And also we've been poisoned by society. I spoke earlier about the norm. You look at social media now, if you're a doom scroller going through shite pages on Instagram and Facebook, seeing what the norm of society, seeing some jacked, ripped man or some hench bloke or some women in a bikini, that there is a what is the norm of society, because it's not what we often get portrayed or what gets portrayed on social media. And that's damaging. Maybe not so much for our age range and generation, but our kids and people, young girls in their early 20s or late teens, it's dangerous what they're looking at because of what they think society tells them that they should look like a model cover or an influencer with her tits out. And no wonder there's, mental health problems, eating disorders. This is where social media's got a lot to answer for, but it's something we're now accustomed to, and we have to.
Yeah,
we have to protect people.
There's benefits to it, though.
Of course, there is.
That needs to be. I think where children, certain young people, that needs to be balanced with. That has to be balanced with the way they're parented. Right?
This is where education needs to come in. I think there should be something in the educational system about social media. Social media is what we didn't grow up with it. We didn't grow up with it. No, of course we didn't. What did we have?
We're Zennial. We're classed as Zennials.
Well, yeah.
XENNIAL. So we grew up analog, digital hitters, early adulthood.
Yeah.
So
my lad, he's 15. I was telling him stories the other day about, he's got a girlfriend at the moment, having a few problems, bless him. And I said, when I had a girlfriend, I had to say to mum, "Can I use the phone?" And then it's like, "Yeah, you got 10 minutes, and I'll be there in the kitchen on a cord with my mum and dad in the background, just having this conversation like this. And there's my lad on his phone. I said, "You don't know you were born, son." It's like that, isn't it? It's like he's got this, he can access things, misses phone calls, video calls, whatever, and it's free. It's not free, obviously, but it's mad, isn't it? I'm going off on one there.
One of the things, up until a few years ago, maybe the last couple of years, I was someone who it would piss me off that I'd see young people in the gym doing the same goddamn exercises all the time because that's what they're seeing. The classic for women is going in and doing the hip thrusts with weights on, right? Because that's what's all over TikTok or Instagram, wherever they're seeing it. It's like the fitness influencer lady, they're going to do hip thrusts and all these videos that are on there, they make their ass look great and their thighs look great and their legs look great. It used to really annoy me. And then, but it doesn't now, because one of the benefits of all that nonsense of social media is, I think for sure, there are much more young people going to the gym or going running, doing some sort of fitness because of that social media, which is mostly bad if they are if they're interpreting it in the wrong way. Right. But the fact that they're going and getting and going to the gym is amazing, I think. Amazing.
This is why you should never, and I mean this to people listening, knock somebody for running on New Year's Day, because you see the classic overweight person smashing himself down the street. I mean, I want to grab that person and go, look, there's better ways of doing this, not when you're overweight and you haven't run for 7 years and you're just out on a run and you're smashing your joints through the pavement, but you can't knock them because they want to go and change. People in the gym, exactly. Part of me says, those people in the gym doing the same routine at the same time every morning, they're not changing. Yeah, but at least they're in the gym and they're doing something. It's like the group of lads that go in and they're all huddled around the such and such machine. Yeah, but they're in there. They're trying to learn. They're trying to.
They're dicks. I know what you mean. The people I admire most, right? When I I see someone in the gym or see someone out running, and I didn't used to be this person. I used to be someone who either thought neutrally or bit of negative humor. That fat fucker, unfit person, whatever, or that person who doesn't look the most professional of fitness people running or whatever, Now, I have nothing but admiration.
Yeah.
Nothing but admiration. You see someone who's the easy unfit person to spot is the overweight one, right? So I'm just going to use that example. You see an unfit person in the gym, right? And I don't know how often they go to the gym, but just the mere fact that they are doing something to combat that, right? Also, that especially if it's the first time or they're just starting out, getting back into fizz, right? Especially out running. You see someone overweight out running. And what I think is, man, they may well be someone who's super conscious here, especially where females are concerned. They may think that everyone's looking at them and people are laughing at them because they're over or in the gym. And it is in my experience anyway, it is the opposite. I have nothing but admiration because what they're doing is much harder than what I'm doing.
Yep.
Them to go to the gym or them to go running is much harder for them to do than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They are putting more effort in than what I am doing. There's nothing but admiration for that, and it's also kind of the underdog thing. You went, holy shit, you were starting from a difficult place. You were choosing to do that. There was nothing more admirable in my opinion.
Talk about going out of your comfort zone. If you're overweight and out of shape, you're probably not that very confident and you're rocking up into a gym where there are going to be people in good shape. There are going to be people training hard. The weights are going to be clanging. They know what they're doing. That's like, listen, I'll talk about this later on, but I had a lot of health issues where I went from being a physical training instructor in the military to shitting myself going into like buildings and even into gyms and that because I was at such a low point. I was PTI. It's PTI in the military. And I was all of a sudden years down the line with no confidence of even opening my mouth. That's where I was at. There's another thing, right? And this one, I'm torn between this. When you go into the gym and you've got somebody sat on a machine in between sets and they're on social media scrolling through shit, but hear me out.
Wrap a 20K plate around the head.
Right.
What did you do?
Hear me out. Part of me goes, oh, fucking hell. No wonder they're not in good shape because they're just sat between, I've done 4 sets and they've done 1. Yeah, but that person is probably shitting themselves about looking at other people in the gym. They don't know what they're doing. They're trying to do the right thing. So they're hiding into social media and they're hiding in their phone because they haven't got the confidence to look at people. Now, look, there will be people that are just loafing their tits off and just, not working hard. And I want to shake those people and go, come on, let's get moving. But I also have to be conscious of, people are like, we go back to that comment before, people are, I don't want to sit here. I don't want to sit here. What shall I do? Oh, get my phone out. Safety zone. So.
Yeah, but, right. So one of the things with those people is they take longer and those goddamn machines than other people.
Yeah.
There are people who will sit between sets for 5 minutes because they're doom scrolling.
Yeah.
What used to be before 3 or 4 sets.
I go up and go, can I join in? And it's not a question. I'm joining in.
Yeah.
Get out of the way.
I mean, but on that, we were talking about, why are you feeling the way? Why have you got a headache? Why have you got this illness, this ache, this pain? It's the same thing with those emotions, mate. If you're an individual sat in a gym and you're feeling super self-conscious, ask yourself why. Because I guarantee you, there's no reason to feel super self-conscious. There's no reason to feel super self-conscious. Like, address the why, address the uncomfortable question, answer the question. Should I be feeling self-conscious? Is there something less? Am I less of a person than everyone else in you, or do I deserve to be just as much as everyone else? And if you're just by mere virtue of the fact that you were choosing to go to the gym, you deserve to be there just as much as everyone else.
Yeah, and I agree. And this is the fine line in coaching, and the fine line in between tough love and coaching and being empathetic and understanding. And there is a fine line, but you're speaking of sound mind there and rational thinking. The person who's absolutely shitting themselves and just literally walked in and doesn't know what to do knows that that's a rational thing to say. Come on, and all this, but in their head, they're going, warning, 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 like, I'm out of my comfort zone. I do not like this. And people are different. I told you the story. I was a PTI and I fucking shit myself about going into like Costa to order a coffee because I couldn't speak to people. I just completely broken down with health. So I know what it's like to be at a really low point of like, how have I got to this state? So, and then we talk about mental health there. It's such a complex subject.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I said on the icebreakers, I am all up for a bit of tough love. And I do use that. I use it with my kids. I use it in my life. I use it in my coaching. But that doesn't mean you go around bellowing and shouting at people. You've got to find a fine line between coaching and fucking get on with it. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's I still get embarrassed doing some stuff in the gym these days, and I won't do it in the gym. I'll go where I train. There's a couple of studios, or one of the places I train. There's a couple of studios I can go and use when they're empty. And I'll go and do certain exercises and movements in there.
Like what?
Uh, uh, well, the last one I started doing there was shadow boxing. I got injured. I boxed and I got injured, and I couldn't actually go to my boxing gym. Right, so I thought, man, and I fucking hate shadow. Or I have hated shadow boxing in the past because it just.
Yeah,
I never boxed extensively in the past. And so I thought, I need to keep my hand in at this. I can't hit a bag. I can't hit pads. Like a shadow box doesn't involve doing anything through a hand injury. So I went to the studio to shadow box. But I did that to the point where I'm comfortable doing it. And now I would do that in the gym. And I've done that in the past for other things. Skipping, another example. I first started boxing. Skipping is another example. Should I be embarrassed by that stuff?
There's always the duty shadow boxer in the gym, isn't there? That's why that's why I was laughing.
I don't shadow box in the gym area, mate.
So going back to being,
I'll hit the bag.
Going back to like not slating,
not in enough field.
Going back to not slating people.
Hang on a minute though. Shadow boxing is a fucking good workout.
No, I don't doubt it.
Slagging it off.
You just look like a bellend doing it.
Only with a headband on.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can.
And a little like 1 kilo weight.
Shadow boxing, mate.
1 kilo weight.
But I win that fight every time.
there was a bloke. There was a bloke not so long ago, and I talk about not knocking people. I will knock him because he looked like an absolute muppet. He had just finished like doing dumbbell presses, and he stood in between sets in the dumbbell section. And when I say shadow boxing, I thought he was actually fighting someone. He was going for it. And that was like, what the fuck are you doing? You need to go in the dance studio with Hugh and do that.
Yeah, with me. Probably win, wouldn't he? Yeah.
That's why I draw the line. Shadow boxing with intent at the dumbbell section.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing it's overcomplicated, isn't it? It's like a barrier to people starting back up their fitness journey or starting their very first fitness journey is, how do I do the exercises properly? Even running. I want to start running. Oh, how far should I go? What pace should I saw this thing online and it's like run for 200 meters and walk 50 miles. No, just get out. Just go out for 5 minutes. Just do something.
Just
do something.
Do something. Listen, if anyone watching this that has shit themselves about going to the gym, that wants to go to the gym, go in, head straight for the cardio machine, get on a cross trainer and just press quick start and just move. And whilst you're there, you're in a little safe environment, have a look round. And if it's a good gym, which most places are, you'll realize there's no idiots in there. The shadow boxers are in the dance studio, so you're safe from them. But just have a little look and see that people are there to improve. And nobody gives a shit. Why? Because most people have got their headphones on, or they're training in partners, or they're on their phone in between sets. Nobody's looking at you. And if they are, it's the wrong gym. Go and find somewhere else. And another one on that, bear in mind I used to work in a gym. If it's a good gym, the staff, you should be able to go up to them and say, can you help me? Not to be paid, not personal trainers, fitness instructors. Can you help me? And they should take you over and they should show you how to use a chest press machine because you can't go wrong on those machines. You literally can't. So go and do something. Go and do something. Just walk on a treadmill. Just go on a cross trainer. Doesn't matter. It's something.
Yeah.
Don't overcomplicate it.
No, don't overcomplicate it. Gyms can be intimidating places to walk into.
Yeah, they can.
A new gym, intimidating places. I've been over the last couple of months. I've had the advantage of ClassPass. You ever heard of ClassPass?
Yes, but you're going to have to
It's like a
familiarise me with it.
membership thing. I
Right.
get it through a bank I use.
Yeah.
And you basically get credits, monthly credits, and you can spend the credits at any gym, which is a part of ClassPass. So, for example, there's a gym in Chelmsford where I live called F45, and you can go and book yourself into a class. I'm not a member of that gym, but I've got ClassPass, and so I can go pay 8 credits, whatever it is, and go do a F45. There's like 4 or 5 gyms in Chelmsford I can do it. The gyms are everywhere. But walk into those places for the first time to do these classes, what I've been doing every time. I'm like, oh my God, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit there. Don't know the gym, especially when you walk into like CrossFit orientated gyms.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you're
All got
like,
their top off.
God. Like,
And they've definitely got headbands on.
Yeah. And
they're high-fiving.
Their socks pulled up. What are those all about?
Yeah.
What are the socks all about?
Yeah.
Pulled up. I don't get it.
CrossFit has got many benefits, but it's also got some disadvantages. My lad, who's 15, trains with me now. He's been training with me for about 6 or 7 months, and it's brilliant. But he did 2 years at CrossFit, which was a great class. But my problem with CrossFit is they're teaching you complex lifts multiple times under load with one instructor. And I would stand watching his class and watch the adults class who had 15 people in it, all doing weird and wonderful cleans or whatever, snatches, throwing weight above their head for multiple reps. And there's one instructor walking around, not knocking the instructor, great coach, great instructor, but you can't teach complex lifts. Bear in mind, I'm an S&C coach. You can't do it in that environment, and people get injured. And
You're what coach?
Strength and conditioning coach.
Oh, S&C. Okay. Yeah.
So watching that was painful. So I used to stand with my boy Max, who was taught really, really well in a kids class, which was a small class, which was good. But it got to the point where he said to me, I want to stop CrossFit. And I was like, oh man, I never pushed him into doing it. He made these choices by himself. One day he came back and went, I want to do CrossFit. And I went, what? I'd never done that. So I went and stood with him, helped him, coached him. He got coached by another guy who was great, a guy called Martin. But he came to me one day and he said, he goes, don't want to do it anymore. And I was like, fuck's sake. He goes, I want to come and train with you. It's like, oh, dream come true. So my boy comes and trains with me now.
Yeah, mega.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But again, CrossFit's another one where I don't like it for all the reasons you probably think negative things about it too. But my God, what a movement to get people into doing phys.
Yeah.
Literally, in a cult-like manner. You know, I know High Rocks is the new one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. A
And your
little
High
bit
Rock
safer that
patches.
one. There's no complex lifts, but it's another thing at a cult. It is.
They are, aren't they?
But again, it's like I can't knock it because you're doing something, but just you need to learn how to lift properly because you go into that as a beginner and you learn some gnarly lifts that take years to refine how to do them, sticking a weight above your head and squatting, you know. So it's good, but yeah, you got to be careful.
So when you were serving, you're a Royal Marine and Navy,
Yes.
right? To me, Royal Marines is part of the Navy.
Correct.
I'd like to point that out.
But that's not, you won't get a bite on that because you're absolutely correct. Check your ID card.
I won't get a bite from you.
Yeah, but I can't bite because I then transferred to the Navy, so I'm happy with that. I now wind boot necks up and go, but we're all part of the Navy.
When you were in, so were you a boot neck when you did your PTI stuff?
No.
It was Royal Navy.
Yeah.
Right. So when you were trained to be a PTI with the Royal Navy, and I don't know how similar that process is to like Army PT Corps. Not that I know the Army PT Corps process really well. I never did it, but I'm aware it exists. But when you're doing that, was there any focus on mental health and well-being at all in relation to physical performance?
On PT course?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Mad.
Nothing. Zero.
When did you do it?
2011.
Crazy. When you think about it, right?
Yeah.
What was the course like? When you're thinking back now.
Fucking hated it. So I transferred, I did 6 years in the course, 6 and a bit years, and I soon discovered I didn't want to be a soldier. Didn't like getting cold and wet. But I where to start with that, but maybe we'll come back to that. But I transferred, and before any bootneck PTIs get upset, I did the bootneck aptitude. So it's a 3-day down at CTC, Commando Training Centre, and you crawl around the bottom field, you do the assault course, you give a presentation, you do a bleep test. It's all quite cuddly. You don't call people staff. There's a guy called Graham Alderson as a boxing coach. You know him? Top bloke, all right, Graham, it was just really chilled out. Can you do the levels that we need? And it was just basic. It was honestly hard work, but basic. The reason I didn't then follow that through was because I wasn't a corporal. I was a Marine. I hadn't done my juniors. And I got offered a position on the next course, but told you need to go and do your juniors. So I was a signaller. So I went back to the SIGs wing. This is a true story. I was going backwards and forwards at Commando Training Centre to the 2 sergeant majors. Like, remember I said I'm a doer. I do things. If I want to do it, I'll do it. So I'm literally taking letters backwards and forwards in an afternoon. And they're ready to load me up onto a PT course. And I didn't do it. Funny, so he gets upset. I don't know if I could do it because it's nails. PT course in the Marines is like one of the pinnacle trades jobs. It's fucking up there in terms of physicality.
Well, what are the standards? Give me an example of the entry tests.
So you got to do the Commando tests quicker, but that's not the issue. I think it's 6 months of just getting fragged. Lots of running. I was good running with weight. What do you call it? Tabbing. Yeah, speed marching, yomping, brilliant, carrying weight, a big bloke, just carry it for all day long. I was really good at speed marching, short little legs, big bloke. I was gash at running. So I'm 110 kilos now. I was about 100 kilos then. I was big. Listen, there are guys that size that can run, but I couldn't. So you do the PT sessions they do, and you do it as a nod in training as well. Running, rope climbing, press ups, shower. So anyway, I know that the PT course is nails in the core. Anyway, so I fancied it. But I hadn't done my juniors. So I went back to the SIGs wing and they said, yeah, well, you're due for a juniors course, so we'll load you up, but then you've got to give us 2 years return of service. No, not doing that. Back to the sergeant major in the PT wing. It's like, no, can't put you through without doing a juniors. And I went backwards and forwards until this guy, who was the training officer of the PT wing in the Corps, he shut his door, went almost like, 5 and 20s checked. And he went, do you really want to be a PTI? I went, yeah. And he goes, go and join the Navy. And I was like, fuck off, mate. Really? And I was going to either leave, I was going to go and be a civvy or do that. And I just went, right, okay. And I didn't, I'd done a lot of work with the Navy. I'd served on ship. I'd done deployments. And I was like, that was a big step down that, isn't it? Royal Marines down to Royal Navy. So I went, all right, I'll go and investigate it. So I put my homework in and off I went. I went and did an aptitude, much like I did with the Royal Marines for the Navy. Now, this will piss people off. The Royal Navy aptitude was fucking ninja. Oh my God. And I just turned up like, yeah, okay, this will be easy. I'm a bootneck. Jesus, man. That was even more running.
This is the aptitude for a Royal Navy PTI.
Yeah, so do the aptitude again, 3 days. This is HMS Temeraire in Portsmouth.
So comparable to the Royal Marines one, you reckon?
The aptitude, It was different. There was no bottom field assault course. There was no crawling around in the mud. It was just fucking down to South Sea seafront, run, stop, get fragged up and down the beach for like 2 hours. I was in a shit state. Again, big bloke, couldn't run, strong, but couldn't shift. And I was just hanging out. And all the Navy lads on that aptitude are all like 70 kilos, whippersnappers. And there's me at the back, big 30-year-old bootneck, like hanging out my arse. So I did that. There was a few other fitness tests. Then you had to do the presentations and all that. So in that respect, it was harder. And it was a lot more stricter in terms of you had to run around everywhere. You had to spring to attention. You had to call people's staff and all this. And I was just like, oh, fuck's sake. I was 30 years old. I'd done 6 years. And I was like, I'm not sure on this. But I passed it. And they offered me a position on the next course, which was actually a year later. So I went and had a cheers easy year down at Commando Training Centre. And then I got into rowing, which is another story. But yeah, two completely different things. And I mean, being a Navy PTI was as close to being a civvy as you could have been. And that's what I wanted, mate. And I didn't want to be a soldier. And the thing is, had I been a PTI in the Corps, should I have passed it, I'd be a year at Commando Training Centre and then I'd be section commander, back-to-back Herricks. And I was just like, I'm fucking out. I'm not doing this. And that's why I left. I went, nah. I'm gone. And I went to the Navy and I had the best few years of my career to date at the Britannia Royal Naval College in Dartmouth, which is the officer training, taking naval officers through. It was fucking brilliant. Wonderful location, small staff, PTI, running around in a pair of shorts, cracking your own detail, brilliant people to work with and taking young officers through. So it was an amazing decision.
Yeah, working dress in trainers. I always, yeah, it was sort of, I'm sort of thinking what my memories of, when I was in training, was of the PTIs was, man, they look so comfortable. They look so comfortable. They look comfortable and clean, and fit.
Yeah.
White vest, white trainers, pair of white shorts, red stable belt, or if it was a power HP maroon.
But I used to get involved, even though I didn't want to be a bootneck. I got dragged into the leadership team, who were the Royal Marines down at Dartmouth, who did like the very basic soldiering skills for the matlows for the Navy, and it was bivvy construction. I don't know, wet and dry, fucking whatever it was, really, really basic weapon drills. So I used to get dragged into that, which I liked, even though I didn't want to be a bootneck. All of a sudden, I was mixing out with the lads that I used to work with, and I was able to take them for fairs and that. So I did kind of keep my hand in a little bit, even though I didn't want to be a soldier. Here I am teaching people how to do bivvy construction and then thrashing around a little bit. So it was good. It was diverse. And I went away, every course that I could have done, like little one-day courses, qualifications. I'm like, boom, I'm all over it. I'm a doer. Yeah, I'll do it. So I loved it. It was a great decision.
What was getting out like?
When I left. So but then it went wrong.
When did you get out?
Officially 2019. But my last 2 years were spent in Hasler Company, which is the Royal Marines Rehabilitation Unit in Plymouth, or the Naval Service Recovery Centre. It's the correct name for it. But it was Hasler Company, named after Blondie Hasler.
How did you end up in Hasler if you were Royal Navy?
Because there was a couple of Army guys in there. There was RAF, mainly bootnecks and mainly Navy. You just told me Royal Marines are part of the Navy.
Yeah, sorry. When you said Hasler and you said it was bootnecks, I thought it was exclusively for bootnecks.
No. So Hasler Company, named after Blondie Hasler from Cockleshell Heroes. Hasler Company was created from the lads coming back from Afghan that were seriously injured and unwell. And that's when it was created. So I imagine 2006, 2007 probably. And then it evolved into the Naval Service Recovery Centre. So this is now 2016.
The equivalent of our Headley Court, I take it.
Pardon?
The equivalent of our Headley Court, I take it.
Yeah, but it's an in-house unit.
Yeah.
I went to Headley Court as well. I was admitted there for a month. That's another one. So it was a brilliant unit, and it was taking people out of service. You become a patient. I didn't realise this at the time. I was so fucked up that you're a patient. Everyone loses their rank. Everyone's in FISRIG, and you're mixing it up with there's lads from Poole there, SBS lads, majors, colonels, all the way down to Marines and ABs, which is private. Patients, you're a patient because you're fucked. But that's where I ended up, because I just had a proper meltdown in midlife. Lots of things caught up with me mentally and physically. I ended up having 3 ankle operations, reconstructing my ankle, which is still completely screwed to this day.
How did you smash your ankle?
2005, Royal Marines training, a classic inversion, went over on it. I'm sure we've all done it, sprained your ankle. We go into what's called Hunter Company, which is a rehabilitation unit in Royal Marines training. Back into recruit training, off you go, pass out, fantastic, on with your career. And then every year, I would just nick it. I would it's just floppy ankle. We've all been there, right? And then 2008, I was playing rugby in Portugal with the Royal Marines on this horrific pitch, running down the wing, and there was a fucking great big pothole. And at pace, at 100 kilos, just went bosh and went over on it again. Classic, swelled up like a balloon, no brakes, inversion, flown off the ship, back home, sick leave, blah, 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 crack on with my career. And I'd still used to nick it and go over on it again. Then I started getting really bad hip pain years later, bad back pain. I had all sorts of problems. I used to row. I'll come on to that in a bit. And I went to see the physio, and I went to see him about hip pain. And he looked at my ankle. It was like a little bit of spaghetti just sort of flopping around. There was no stability to it. And he said, does it give you bother? And I went, well, I'll go over on it every now and then, but it's all right. And he said, right, we'll send you to an ankle specialist. All right, cool. So I got sent to the ankle specialist. He went, yep, let's reconstruct that, because the ligament was like a bit of spaghetti just flopping around. And I was like, yeah, okay, sounds like a good idea. And this bloke gave me his success. I'm not blaming this guy, but I fucking am. He sold me the dream, and I didn't do enough research myself. I should have. It's my own fault. I listened to him. He sold it to me really, really well. He was a colonel in the army, very arrogant man. Had another encounter with him years later.
What's this guy's name? He's still alive?
I don't know. Oh, fuck it. Yeah. Mike Butler.
No. Okay.
He was a cock. And
Mike, you're a cock.
No, it was. And I'll tell you for why. He sold me the dream, and that wasn't the cock reason. And I was happy with what he said. And I should have done my own research. And I went, yeah, cool, reconstruct it, and I'll crack on with my career and go and be an underwater knife fighter. Brilliant. So he reconstructed it, and in my opinion, fucked it up.
He did it.
Yeah. So he reconstructed it. He was a surgeon. He was a top ankle surgeon in the Southwest, I think he was. That's what he told me.
Well,
and yeah, he reconstructed it, and as far as I'm concerned, made an absolute fucking hash of it. And true story, when I was this is a Plymouth hospital, as a patient in my gown, waiting to go in for surgery, there was another guy sat next to me, bald head, big moustache, got chatting, and he was bootneck, a guy called Jordan Pring, top lad. Jordan was having the same surgery on the same ankle on the same day, and he went in before me, and I went in after him, or vice versa, I can't remember. I didn't see Jordan for over a year, and all of a sudden, when I was in rehab in Hasler, the doors opened, and Jordan walked in, and I went, fucking hell, mate, what's happened to you? And he went, oh, my ankle's fucked.
Oh.
And I reckon Mike Butler was having a very bad day the day he took us in for surgery.
Oh,
so what should have been a nice, simple operation, yeah, it just completely screwed it. I won't get my boot off now, but if I showed you my ankle now, you would go, oh, you've gone over on that. It's like that. It's just fucked.
Oh, really?
I then had 2 successive surgeries on it by 2 other guys who tried to fix it, and they couldn't do anything with it. True story. My podcast, Beyond the Battlefield, quick plug. I had a guy on, and I released the podcast yesterday, a guy called Ray Lowry, bootneck. He broke his ankle. He went into Hasler Company. He had 20 operations. It wasn't just his ankle. His bottom leg was, it was all, they fused it. They did everything. They put titanium in it. 20 operations for this guy over 5 years, and he opted to have his leg chopped off. So it was a little bit more severe than mine. But Hugh, when I tell you I was at a low point, and I'll come on to this, in rehab, I toyed with the idea. And he toyed. I didn't, not like Ray. Ray was begging people to have his leg chopped off. I was going, could cut it off. You know, it was a lot more casual, but it was a genuine thought because it was fucked, and it still is now. Didn't get a penny for it, by the way.
Really?
Legislation, right? Here's another one for you. Remember in the ice? Here we go. Remember in the icebreakers? You asked me the question: was it the Marines ever let me down, or did I ever feel hard done by?
Yeah, the question was, it was actually the very first question from Coke.
Okay.
When have the Royal Marines treated you worst is what it was.
Right, I can answer that now.
Okay, go on.
You got me going now. I've had 2 coffees. So this is not the Marines, but it's the military. It's the Armed Forces Compensation Scheme, which is designed to look after servicemen and women and veterans at times of adversity, and when there's a blame, there's a claim, right? So they're supposed to look after you, aren't they, the military? So I wrote to the Armed Forces Compensation Scheme in 2011 when I told you my ankle was a little bit floppy and I used to just go over on it because somebody said to me, have you put a claim in? And I went, you know, that's not me. Don't worry about it. No, put a claim in. I went, all right. So I banged the claim in. Armed Forces Compensation Scheme came back to me and said, yeah, we accept liability because you did it, 1 playing rugby and 1 in service. So it's, you know, we have duty of care for you, but it's under tariff. It's not severe enough. And I went, didn't think so. Not a problem. Threw it in the bin. Fast forward 5 years. I'm now in rehabilitation. I've had 3 consecutive ankle surgeries, reconstructions. I'm a patient in a care unit, and I end up getting medically discharged because of that. So I go, fuck this. This is getting a claim. So I put the claim back into Armed Forces Compensation Scheme, who say, by the way, if there's any solicitors watching, please get in touch. I put a claim back in, and they said, yeah, we definitely, we are liable for this 100%. And it's well above tariff now because you'd be medically discharged. However, since the first claim in 2011, you only had 12 months to put a claim in. You're now out of time.
There's a negligence case here. One of the misconceptions, I've only learned this recently, mate, and I'm going to say it for other people who are aware now, and this is not You joked there with there's a blame as a claim. I wholeheartedly believe, right, if the military fuck you up, then the military are responsible for caring for you. Just in the same way that the company fucks you up, they've got a duty of care to you. The military are really great at not doing that because so many people get injured. It's not in their financial interest to do it, right? And their armed forces compensation scheme is shit. It's real bad. Anyway, there is a negligence case there, and there are solicitors which will take on that case.
Mm.
I know for sure. I've got a negligence claim going through right now for something else. They will take it on, and there'll be a no win, no fee. But it's because there's so many blatantly obvious cases where the military have ruined someone physically, and it also has mental repercussions, as life repercussions, as you know more than most, right? And it's a lot of the time down to how you were handled, how they managed you. You know.
So, well, I've asked 2 solicitors, and they both said no. So I need to keep fishing.
Nonsense.
But the point to it is, it's not just trying to get a bit of money. Hugh, this is life changing.
Yeah.
That's why I lost my career.
Yeah.
It's caused me all sorts of mental health issues. I can't run. I can't play football with the kids. It looks like I've just gone over in it, and I'm here, and that's why I am very bitter about it. I am. So yeah, that answers that first question. I've actually got a claim in at the moment. I don't know if you know about this one. Last year, the MOD accepted responsibility for hearing loss in the military. So I've now got a claim in. I got issued a hearing aid in 2016. I rocked up into rehab with it, and it's one of these massive ones. And everyone just went, "What the fuck?" And I just went, "Fuck this." Throw it in the bin. I was just like, getting all the I wasn't ready for banter. But that event I was at last night, I can't hear anything. So I've got a big claim going at the moment for hearing loss.
I was supposed to have them fitted when I left. They postponed the appointment, and I never got the appointment. I never got the hearing aids.
Do it, but I get ear pain and all sorts now. So, but the ankle one is so that's what I was in. What were we saying? That was when I was in rehab. Yeah, and that coming from the background that I had as a PTI, as an athlete, that's what started to break me. Or what wasn't started to break me. This was the end of my career. Then I tore my hips. I had hip surgery. Still got problems now. I was hanging out walking in third of my hip. So it's a constant battle, mate. Body's like broken. Somebody spoke to me last night about looking fit and healthy. I was like, yeah, you fucking see the state of my body. But this comes back to resilience and what I want to do and how I coach people, how I live my life. Like, I won't settle. I'll keep pushing and doing what I can. It's a challenge. I mean, I've been in pain for years. Some days are good, some days are bad. Some days I can do this. You'd look at me in the gym and go, "Like, wrong with you?" Yeah, but I know what I'm doing as well, and I look to repair myself, and I've got a team. I work with a team. A physio who works with me a lot. So I had a stress fracture in my spine. I had fucking all sorts. So I think that was where we're getting to on it. That was the end of my career, going from Royal Marines to Navy, and then ended up with that. And this is what happened to my mental health. And I'll be honest, back in the day, I used to think like mental health, well, it's just like, whatever, get on with it. That attitude that we would have had in the military, it must have been the same in the paras. You didn't dare go to the medical centre, or the sick bay as we used to call it. You'd be called a sick bay ranger, or a biff chit, called biff chit. Yeah, you had that ingrained into you, and it's good in the sense of what we did as soldiers to be able to push through and do the job, but not at the expense of your body breaking. So we were brought up, don't dare go to the medical centre, even if your leg's falling off. Crack on, just crack on, Royal. And that came to a point years later where the wheels came off. And I told you on the icebreakers, I sat in front of a doctor and had a breakdown, age 36 years old.
What did you go to the doctor for? Talk through that. If you don't mind.
No, it's fine, mate. I'm trying to give you a good answer. I reached the point of kind of like, I didn't know what else to do. I was I'd gone from that great job in Dartmouth. I'd gone and done a ship's draft, went on this operation called Operation Kipian, which is like a drug busting ship's operation. They do it in the Northern Arabian Gulf and Indian Ocean and that. And on the ship, I was depressed. I didn't realize at the time, but I was suffering with depression because I was in pain. That's when the problem started. Ankle, before the surgery.
What were the symptoms though of the depression?
Bearing in mind I was the PTI on the ship, my job was to motivate, inspire 130 people from captain down to the bottom rank, run circuits, keep everyone motivated, a bit like the ship's clown, walk around and make sure everyone's happy, run events. I didn't want to speak to people. I wanted to hide away in my bunk. I didn't want to go out into the light. It's 40 degrees outside, beautiful Indian Ocean. Didn't want to go outside. Missing the family and my little boy. Hated everyone. I was supposed to be I was supposed to be the life and soul of the ship. And I was 32, 3, 4, 35 years old. And I just didn't, I was just shit. And I was putting on a face to go and do the job and then coming back and just hiding away. Didn't want to speak to people. We would get to every, people that don't know in the Navy, you go away on it was a 9-month deployment. I did 6 and I got flown off. You go and do a job up into the NAG, you come down the Indian Ocean. You're always stopping every week, 2 weeks at lovely places, Dubai, Bahrain, Seychelles. There's a story there as well. A lad got killed, got murdered. And when we got to these places, everyone's out on the piss, everyone's doing this, and I'm supposed to organise the events. I was just like, I didn't want to speak to anyone. I just hid away. And people were like, who's this dickhead? It's supposed to be the PTI. I was depressed. I was at a point where I was in so much pain at my hip at this point, and I was trying to train, and I was trying to do this, and I just couldn't function, mate. And I was just like, this is not me. What's happened to my life here? This is not what I wanted. But that was on ship. Yeah, we went to Seychelles. Oh, there's a lad called, bless him, Charlie Warrender. He was only a young lad. He was 20 years old, I think he was. He lived in the same mess as me, 30-man grot, 30-man mess. We went to the Seychelles, and the ship put on an event for the hierarchy and all the government officials of Seychelles. They put a massive canopy over the flight deck on the ship, and they turn it into like a cocktail party, and it's all the officers. Everyone's dressed up. All the officers are, and they bring the authorities in. And that's one of the reasons we go there, to build relationships and whatnot. And thanks for having us, So they had this cocktail party. Now I was on watch that night. So I was in the ship's control center. One of my jobs when we were alongside was to rotate ship's control center, make sure there's no fires or floods, people behaving, press the alarm buttons, that sort of stuff, answer the phones. And the duty officer came in. That wasn't a duty officer, it was the duty senior came in 2:00 in the morning, and he was like, when people get in, they need to hand their phones in. So what? Because they're going to report to you. You're going to have a box, and you're going to have everyone's phone from officer down to bottom. He wouldn't tell me why. I was like, you got to tell me why, because lads are going to go, well, I'm not fucking handing my phone in. And he goes, there's loads of you we've designated around the ships, not just you. Need your phones handed in. And I was like, this guy called Robbie. I went, fucking what's going on? And he went, right, draw shut. He goes, Charlie Warrender's just been found dead 400 yards from the ship.
Fucking hell.
What? We're at the Seychelles, like this fucking holiday destination on a bit of R&R. What happened? Well, we later found out, and there was a coroner's report and all sorts. It's incredibly, man, it's tragic, absolutely tragic. So they had this cocktail party. Charlie would have gone with the rest of the ship to a bar, which was like the only bar in the vicinity, and they were all having drinks and that. Now, what had happened, well, this is what they think, a load of drug lords on the island that were running the island against the government had spotted people on the ship and followed them back. So Charlie took a lad called Azif, took him back to the ship because he was a bit pissed. So Charlie, being a good egg, got in a taxi, took this lad back to the ship, and then was going to get the taxi back to the bar. He got followed, and they reckon he was mistaken for probably a hierarchy of the ship, maybe an officer, maybe someone in government or something. And these guys captured him and injected him with heroin.
Oh my God.
And killed him.
Fucking hell.
And it was 400 yards from the ship. You could see the park. And it was just like, and that, I mean, it affected everyone, but I was already fucking in point of depression, and that just drove me over the edge as well. I couldn't cope. I was just like, it was mad. He was this young lad. He lived in the same mess as me.
How old was he?
2021. And he was
My
a
God.
proper, like, everyone knew him. He was like this big lad, big 6'3" lad, loud, funny, clown, like one of the, really, really standout guy. He was an ME, he was an engineer. And he was killed. And it's just like, fucking hell, we're not at war here. We're not in Afghan. We're in the Seychelles on some R&R. And it was mad. And that report came out like probably a year or two later. about what had killed him and everything. Because we then sailed off 3 days later. Off we went to carry on with the deployment, the operation, and everyone's just like, "The fuck? How? How's he?" Because he was led in the park with his shoes next to him, just led there. Fucking.
Oh my God. I can imagine being on a ship is a lonely place to
mate.
be when morale is low, mate.
Oh yeah,
Morale
and
is
it's
low.
my job to keep the morale up. I was fucking depressed. So yeah, that was my ship's draft. Came off that. I was. You know what? I was really lucky. I got an email out the blue one day from the branch advisor or sponsor. I don't know what you call them. And he said, "Oh, you're drafted. You're gone. Fly off in Bahrain, and you're going down to Cold Rose." I was like, "Result." So I got flown off. Went down to Cold Rose, which again should have been an amazing draft. Should have been brilliant. Cold Rose, an air station, Royal Naval Air Station, down in Cornwall. Massive. So they fly all their helicopters and whatnot from. And then went down to there, which should have been a great draft. But I was then at a point of like pain, like physical pain, like hip. I mean, I remember having occupational health come in to give me a stand-up desk because I couldn't sit because my hip was so bad. And I was still trying to train and I still wanted to be the person I was. And I was taking classes and I was doing this. And then I had my ankle done before I went into Hasler, into rehab. So now I had an ankle like this and I just started to get very, very short-tempered with people. So this is, your question was an hour ago, what led me to go to that doctor? And it was just people not listening to me. And I did allude to this in the icebreakers, people not listening to me. I came back from sick leave when I had my ankle done. And I knew when I went to my chief, who's my colour sergeant, I suppose, or warrant officer, somewhere in between in the Navy, and said, "I've got to go and have an operation." I could just tell with a look on her face, she was just like as if like, what, why? Like, why, you know, that's the way the relationship had gone. And I was just like, I'm a fucking operation on my ankle to reconstruct it. I had 3 months off. And this is the way I'm inclined. I'm a doer. Remember I said about crack on, Royal. 3 months at home, I was going out of my mind. I started drinking then as well. I started drinking. I was using painkillers and I was drinking because I was still in that point of depression. Marriage was really bad. Ended up getting divorced. My little boy would have been like 5 at the time or 6. I was just a shit to be around. I started to gain weight. I was still a PTI. And you can see the rapid decline of health here. And I was at home and I was just like, I need to do something. And actually, go back to the question, have I ever feel let down? I was let down then. I was lost out of the system because I was living in Limpston, which is next to the Commando training centre. And I was just lost in the system of like, who the fuck am I supposed to be reporting to? Who's looking after my ankle? I am making phone calls and I could have done more. Of course I could have done. But I was like, hang on, what's the treatment here? What am I supposed to be doing? So I did. I got lost in the system. So I took it upon myself to go back to work. I thought, fuck this. I'm going back to work. So of course I go back to the gym where I worked on the airbase. And this is where the problem started. And it is partly my fault for cracking on and not putting my hand up and being stern enough. But I was on light duties. Fucking ankle was like this. It had just been reconstructed. All this hip pain. And when your senior says to you, "Oh, Oz, do you mind just going to do that? Can you take that class?" "Oh, I'm not supposed to be on my feet, but yeah, all right, I'll do it." So that's my own fault. But that became more and more and more. So it was like, I might as well be fucking taking squad runs here. This is ridiculous. And again, I should have put my hand up and done something. But the idiots that I worked with, those 2 seniors, couldn't see the decline of health that I was having. Why did I keep flashing at people? Why was I so bad-tempered? Why was I like an angry man, like fucking angry? And they didn't see that. And, you know, I look back at it now and it's quite embarrassing, my behavior. It is. And the turning point was when I had that senior up against the wall, like fucking full on, I'm gonna kill you. And I was like, I finished that and just went, I think I'm gonna go to Colchester here. I'm fucked. Like, I've just made a bad mistake. And that's when I went to the doctor, not as a get out clause, but just went to the doctor and I just went, no one will listen to me, like, and just broke down. And she was just like, whoa, what's going on here? And this was a combination of 2 or 3 years of being in pain, doing that deployment, suffering with depression, as I called it, and nobody fucking listening to me. Like, why am my hip's been like this for 2 years? Why is no one treating my hip? And it's all this combination of like having my identity pulled away from me. And I was an athlete for years before that, rowing at indoor rowing world championships, finished 5th in the world in 2013. Another reason I transferred to the Navy, like just basically a full-time athlete. And all of a sudden I couldn't get out of my car, let alone get on a rowing machine. So I just had all this taken away from me, and I could see my life just disappearing. My career was going out the window. I was in massive amounts of pain. He had just fucked up my ankle even more. And I just lost control, mate. And finally, someone listened, and I went on sick leave. And from the doctor's office back to the chief's office, never forget this. I went to her, chief, I'm on sick leave now. How long for? Just been signed off on sick leave. Well, what for? And I went, it's none of your business. Like proper, like fucking, fuck you. And she's like, oh, no. And I shouldn't have spoken to her like that. I'm a fucking, but that's where I was. And she was raging. I remember that conversation. It was almost like a fuck you, there you go. And off I went on sick leave. And then within 3 days, I just had this phone call, report to Hasler unit, Hasler company. Didn't even know what that was, mate. I went, what's that? Rehabilitation centre in Plymouth. Oh, cool. I'm going to get some rehab. Now, I had done a few rehab courses, which are like week here, week there. So I got to Hasler unit, Hasler company. And that's when I was like, oh my God, I'm a patient. I'm a patient in a care unit, for fuck's sake. I was just like, what? And I've said this on other podcasts, mate. Talk about imposter syndrome. I rocked up with blokes with legs missing, blokes with cancer, blokes that had gone blind, special forces officer who had a stroke. It was like this. And I was like, fucking hell, please don't ask me what's happened to me, because I've just got a bad ankle. But what it did to me was break me in so many more ways than I could have ever known, from all these multiple injuries, surgeries, mental health. I look back at it now and I'm proud of what I went through and what I achieved afterwards and how I've created my business. But at the time I was just like, again, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, please don't ask me. Because it's like, blokes are blokes. All right, mate, what you done? I was like, fucking hell. So that was just, it was a real eye opener down there. And I was in rehab for 2 years, mate.
2 years?
Yes, but I didn't, because I found my way out. I went and found a job. I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, 2 years. So I did. And I could have had longer, but I took medical discharge because I'd been offered a job on the outside. But yeah.
Pause. 2 years working at the same time, did you say, while you were there?
So yeah, when you're in, Hasler company's really good for many, many reasons. There are some flaws there, like with anything, but it's really, really good. And they look after you. But what I soon discovered was in life, you have to make decisions. You can make your own luck, but you have to take the bull by the horns, if that's the saying, and make things happen for yourself. So I soon discovered, after a few months of feeling sorry for myself, accepting that I was a patient, accepting that this is where I was, accepting that I was in a care unit, accepting that I needed help, I needed therapy, I needed support around me, and let that barrier come down. Because you go in a fucking really angry person and you see it all the time. And I soon realized that there was two types of people. There was the group over here that were the doers, the people that were trying to get out of Hasler, that wanted to crack on with their careers or crack on with their lives and fix themselves and accept the help. And there was the group over here who were the ones that just fucking dripped and moaned and just like, this is shit. And we all do it, and we do it to a sense, to banter. But all of a sudden I was like, this is toxic. I can't listen to this anymore. I've got to go and mix it up with the people. And the people that I looked at, mate, so in this care unit, we used to meet in the gym. It was a great big sports hall complex with a gym and a few therapy tables. And then there was another complex with all your mental health support, cognitive behavioral therapy, psychotherapy, all this sort of stuff. And in the physical training complex, they had this hydrotherapy pool, like top of the range hydrotherapy pool, worth huge amounts of money, swimming pool, etc. The people that were doing stuff were, I can't remember his name. There's a guy called Dave something or other. He was a Royal Marines officer. He was a major, but he was a patient. But I knew him, or knew of him. And I just watched him. He was just he was just doing stuff. He was bad enough to be a patient in terms of what he was going through, but he was going back into service, and he was just like, he didn't like being a patient. He was like, no, I'm fucking a major in the Royal Marines. And I remember him bollocking the staff one day, because it's all casual, it's all first name terms, we're all in civilian clothing, you don't know who's who. And I remember Dave, fucking hell, what's his surname? He was brilliant. These are little turning points that I remember. So the PTIs opened up the gym 2 minutes late one day and just sort of strolled through and just morning everyone. And Dave, who was a patient, just went, right, everyone fucking stop. And just, as a patient, just briefed everyone up, briefed them up. These were corporals, that had come to let us in. And he went, bearing in mind he was a PTI himself, so his standards are through the roof, and that's his branch letting him down. And I just stood there like smiling, like he was like, fuck it, we don't care if we're patients, we're still in the military, that door should be open 5 minutes before 9 o'clock, not a fucking, So he was someone I really, really looked up to, positivity, There was another guy in there called Mulkey, who was ex-Paul lad, so SBS. He was my PTI in training. So he was he was the first white vest I saw in 2005 when I rocked up at Lympstone. I don't know what it's like for you guys when you go through, but when your PTIs you come out, you're just like, oh, fucking hell, look at this guy. You fall in love with them, and then they do horrible shit to you.
Yeah, we don't do that, mate. The fall in love bit, no.
No, but Mulkey was there, and he was a stripey, and he had like, he'd come from Paul, and I seen him, and I originally thought he was working there, and we had a little chat, and I was like, fucking, he's a patient, and he had just screwed his knees up and everything. Mm-hmm. So he was doing his own stuff. There's another guy in there. He's called Mark Bowrer. Go and look it up. The Bowrer Foundation. He's a special forces officer who had a stroke. And I used to, funny story, like he used to come and speak to you. He was really, really loud, big bloke, quite overweight. He'd had a stroke, and he was just like so loud. And he would just be talking to you, and I hadn't got a fucking clue what he was talking about. But he was really positive in what he was doing. You're looking at Bowrer Foundation.
Yeah. Well, I'll look up the name of someone I knew called David, who was a PTI bootlegs.
But yeah, so people like him, I started looking up to them and going, this is who I need to mix it up with. Or even just the little Marine who was just cracking on with his work and not dripping his tits off. So I started doing stuff. I started doing my rehab properly. I started being more positive. Yeah. I did lots of things when I was down there. I created a festival, right? When I was down there, I created a festival called H-Fest, which ran 2 years afterwards. A guy called Paul Fleet, top bloke, Royal Marines officer, Fleety. Me and him got together, and in my spare time, she's got a lot of spare capacity, we created a festival called H-Fest, Haslerfest. And we used, at the time, my missus's field where she kept her horses. We turned it into a concert site. We put a stage up, hay bales. We wrote letters. We got bands to come in, like who wants to come and play at the festival. We got sponsors to come and give away the beer, all in aid of raising money, I think, for probably the Royal Marines charity, if I remember, or Royal Marines Association. And it was just like, because that was my organisational side of being a PTI and my positive influence of my identity of what I did. So I started getting life back into me. And then what they do, they encourage you to go and find work and find jobs and go and do what you want to do. Go and do an educational course, go and do a degree. You've got to make things happen. They were giving you all these opportunities. Like I said, I had to mix it with the people that were doing that. So I started writing to football clubs. I wrote to Plymouth Argyle, Exeter, Yeovil, possibly Bristol, and nobody came back to me. So I wrote again, and I wrote again, and I made phone calls.
What are you asking?
I'll come and do some free work for you. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. Let me come and do some rehab stuff with you guys. Let me come and do some, injury prevention work for free. Told them my story. Exeter got back to me, and I went and did a couple of nights on a Tuesday night with the academy in like a local sports hall with the kids, and I was like, no offense, but I'm better than this. I'm with like young coaches that are 19 years old that have just done a degree at university with no background, and I was like, nah, come on, I'm better than this. I can deliver more than this. I was just getting used to kind of pick the cones up and blow the whistle, and I was like, fuck this, mate. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. So I got hold of Plymouth again, Plymouth Argyle, and I got a foot in the door there, and I went down and I met the manager, and he was a really tough man, Derek Adams. I've been on another podcast before and I've slated this to the absolute yin yang. I'm not going to do this on this one. The way football was run in League One football, professional football, was the biggest eye opener. Do you like football?
No.
No, okay, I'm speaking to the wrong person, but
Right.
mate, it was horrendous. Like how?
Oh, I don't mind if you're going to slag it off.
No, I've done all that on another one. You can go and watch my other one on Beyond the Battlefield. But
I have problems with the way football is coached and run and managed at grassroots level. I was a football coach, loosely a football coach. Let's rephrase this. I coached keepers of a youth girls side where my girls were playing for a couple of years, and it exposed me to all of the bad sides of grassroots football and why football is a fucking problem.
Yeah,
in my opinion, all the worst sides of it. You know?
well, I mean,
honestly, mate.
what I witnessed in professional football was just off the scale in terms of leadership values and the stories. I don't want to do them when I get them again, honestly. But this guy brought me in, and the story goes, I had a chat with him. He was a very hard man. He was very closed book. He was I call him a dictator. He was a strange man, but he brought me in. The team were bottom of the league at the time, League One. And he said, come and do some work on a Tuesday, take the lads into the gym, the first team, and make them strong. I was like, well, okay, won't happen just like that, but let's go for it. Within week 2, I'll turn up on Tuesday and a Thursday. Week 3, I was there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Week 4, no banter. I was in the dressing room at half time on a match day. Right? I won't fuck this. I'm doing it. I just used to turn up and I used to hand out bottles. Come on, lads, in you come. Here you go. By the end of the season, he offered me a contract and I'm warming the team up, traveling to Sunderland, doing the warm-ups, doing the strength and conditioning, full-time job. And I was just like, all that from my attitude of, I'm fucking doing this. Just keep showing up. Just keep doing it. Be ballsy. Balls of steel. Get in there.
Well, you mentioned a little, 10 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, about the the two types of people in Hasler, and you got one of the types is those morale hoovers.
Yeah,
and that is full blown victim mentality, right? It's the same mentality that the woke mindset and the worst aspect of the left are. It's the same thing there, and the opposite of that. I don't know what the word is for it. Is what you are.
doer.
No, well, a doer. Yeah, be a doer, not a don'ter.
Yeah.
What's that from? That's pain, no pain, no gain. Pain and Gain, isn't it? The film with Mark. Have you not seen it?
No.
With Mark Wahlberg. You not seen it?
No, but I like
Be a
Mark
doer,
Wahlberg.
not a don'ter. You got to watch it. The Rock and Mark Wahlberg. Fucking brilliant film. True story as well.
Yeah.
But it's the opposite of victim mentality, isn't it? If you're in that victim mentality, you ain't going nowhere. All you're doing is going backwards, and you are not a positive impact on society or the community or your little friend group, your little whinge group. You're like the worst aspect, and you're going to drag yourself down. If it's the opposite, it's the mentality of, oh, everything's hard. The opposite is, what can I do?
Yeah.
How can I maximize my use to this fucking world, my benefit to this world? Really is what it is.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Don't get me wrong. I am far from the person that walks around going, oh, everything's great. But I have I can put a positive spin on things that is backed by what I want to do. And that's fact. Not, I'm not just that happy-go-lucky. I'm far from it. I still moan, I still drip like we all do. But I'm a problem solver. I do things. I'm a coach. I make things better. I lead by example. But that's how I got into football, and that's how I got a contract out of it.
So that's why you left?
Yeah, so I had another few surgeries. I mean, what was great, I'm going to say this or not, I signed the contract before I even left. I was like, fucking sod it. They put it in front of me and I went, bomb. And I did that. And then I took medical discharge. I could have had another year, maybe even 2, because I had surgeries to come and I was in this care unit. They don't just get rid of you. They've got to make sure but I was offered it and I went, well, I've been offered a contract, and off I went. And I thought at the time, I was up here. I was traveling to Sunderland, Portsmouth. I was warming the lads up. I was sat on the bench. It was brilliant. I loved it, and I loved football. The novelty soon wore off because Plymouth is at the bottom arse end of the country. I lived in Exeter, so it was a 2-hour commute or round trip. When we're going even to a Midlands game, mate, it's fucking, you're leaving on Friday, you're getting back late on a Saturday. I spent more time away in my 2 seasons in football than I did in the Royal Marines because you were just away all the time. Yeah, and the gaffer he was a nutter. If you'd lose, he'll bring you in the next day. You ended up working 7 days a week. It was carnage. But I thought that was me, mate, and I thought this is it. I'm gonna be in football. I'm gonna be this, S&C coach, and it's all good. And then again, the wheels came off really badly when I got sacked, because he got sacked because we got relegated in the second season, and the assistant manager got sacked. The coaching staff stayed on. I went away on holiday, did a lot of work behind the scenes, securing potential contracts for GPS, for sports science, for all this sort of stuff with the chairman's backing. But he said, don't pay for anything just yet, just hold on. So I was doing this on holiday, finally got the phone call from the gaffer, the new gaffer guy called Ryan Lowe, who sacked me in a 20-second phone call.
Nice.
Just said,
football, classic.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't hold it against him. He was bringing his own men in, but I didn't expect it when I was on a contract. And it turns out that contract means fuck all. And he said, yeah, listen, don't need you, Ollie. Thanks very much. Don't need to come back. And I was like, could I meet you? Could I? No, I'm bringing my own guys. See ya. Club called me up, or I called the club, and they went, yeah, we'll give you 2 weeks pay. Oh, fucking
2
shit.
weeks?
Yeah, give me 2 weeks pay.
Oh my God.
And I was hung out to dry, mate. And I had bills to pay.
Civvy Street is lethal, mate. Civvy Street is lethal. The football industry, even more so.
Oh, mate, horrendous. And again, so like, I don't know how long we got, but Jesus, man, this is when it got bad. So if I was low in Hasler, at least I had this safety net. At least I had these people around me. I was now naked on the outside, and it went bad. And I went sacked on holiday.
Yeah.
I flew. I put out a Charlie 1 on social media, and loads of lads got in touch. Jobs here, jobs there, jobs there. And I ended up flying from holiday to Heathrow, drove to Canary Wharf, went and spoke to a company, had to buy a suit, went and spoke to a company and got into surveillance work. And they hired me, and these are all lads from Poole. They hired me and grilled me for 2 hours in this interview. And I thought, there's no way they're going to fucking hire me. I'm covered in tattoos. I'm 6'2", and you want me to go and do surveillance? And they hired me. They must have been desperate. And I thought, I'm in, brilliant. And it was a high-paid job, and I was working in London.
Soul destroying, though, surveillance, soul destroying.
Mate, God, you got to be a patient man, which I'm not. But I fucked that up because I kept coming back covered in more tattoos. I used to put makeup over my throat, right? I used to have to change my shirt 3 times in the day because I was getting covered in makeup. I didn't have these head tattoos, and I didn't have these. And I got a phone call from this guy once, or a message from the guy called Mitch who ran it. And he went, I've just seen your new hand tattoos. And he was like, I can't use you. And I was like, fucking hell. And then I was unemployed. And then the worst happened because we went into lockdown.
Oh, mate.
And I had nothing. None of this furlough, none of this support. I was like, I'm in a bad way here. So me and my brother, who you know, X2 para.
Toby.
Yeah. 30-year service between us. And this is no disrespect to people who work for these companies, but there we are driving vans, delivering parcels for Amazon, DPD, and all these shitty companies. And again, no disrespect to people that do that, but we were going, what's our life come to here? This is...
You're doing it together?
Well, separate vans,
separate
but on
vans,
the phone all day long, just talking shit and going, this is shit. And then the way these companies were run was an eye-opener. Like, you know, we talk about military leadership, and I don't know how the hell they're multi-million-pound operations, because Jesus Christ, they are run like off the back of a fag packet. We did that for a couple of years, and we ended up actually getting a good gig with a local courier, and they looked after us really well, but it brought its own stresses. The first 6 months of that COVID lockdown, we were like, you know, like Mexicans on the line getting picked. Yeah, we'll have you today. We were like stood there just like with our vans getting picked. Yeah, we'll have you, like an absolute worthless piece of shit. And we would like walk away with our tails between our legs because we didn't get picked. And then we'd go home and just be like, we need jobs. What are we going to do? And we were getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And
hang on, sorry. How does that work? Open my eyes with this now. So the courier brings my Amazon stuff, right? Explain to me what his morning's like, or her morning's like.
Slightly different with Amazon, because you will get given a route and you've probably got 4 or 5 days a week, completely underpaid.
So how are you doing it then?
This was DPD working for a subcontractor, and a subcontractor would pick up a contract of 15 routes, and he would have 20 drivers to make sure he's covered. But when all 20 of you turn up, who's getting the route?
So DPD are outsourcing to him.
So DPD, subcontractor, comes in and goes, we'll have these routes and we'll charge you this amount of money, and then they'll distribute them. But they always make sure they've got as many drivers as possible. And at the time, it was a very popular industry because people had vans. Luckily, I had a van. Toby had to go and hire one. My missus ended up doing it as well. And yeah, at the time, we would stand there and just get picked, yes or no, and it would be like a lottery. So we were picking up the odd day or here, sometimes 5 days, sometimes a day. and it was so unbelievably stressful.
Oh, mate,
And I was getting deeper and deeper.
that's horrendous.
Started boozing again, put on loads of weight. I still needed surgeries. I was rapidly going downhill. I was in a custody battle with my children. I was in a divorce. This led to bankruptcy 2 years later because I was just using my credit card to pay for everything. I told you my dad died. It was just horrific. And I was like, if I didn't think I was low when I was in Hasler, this is bad. Yeah, and we did that for a couple of years, and the stress levels on that was, I had a few experiences in that where not proud moments of being very nasty to people, rude people when you deliver the parcels, rude people. Always be nice to delivery drivers. They're under a lot of pressure. And I was just an arsehole to people when if they showed the slightest bit of like, cheers or complaint to me. I flashed at so many people and got myself into a lot of...
People take it for granted, right?
Yeah.
All they see is you delivering the parcel
Yeah.
they want.
And
Maybe
also,
they've been waiting all day for it.
Do you know what? Amazon and DPD, I work for both those companies. They are under enormous amounts of pressure in terms of time. DPD have a system, you'll get an hour window when you're going to get it delivered. Well, that driver is under pressure to hit within that hour. So how there's not more road traffic accidents, I don't know. When I worked for Amazon, get this, I got given this route and it was 100 parcels. It was all housing estates. It was quite an easy route. Stop, deliver, stop, deliver, stop, deliver. This is when I was having a bit of a like, come on, get yourself together, man. Let's go. I used to run. So I used to get about 6 parcels under my arm, run to the next door, right back into the van and try and treat it as fizz as I was trying to get my way out of this rut, right? But what that did, you would get back to the depot an hour earlier than you should. So the system, the algorithm would go, that driver can cope with more. And they would dump another load of parcels on. So I did that for 2 weeks and the supervisor had to say to me, you're making this harder for everybody else because when someone else comes do that route, you know what I mean? For me trying to be a good egg and try and do a bit of fizz and run around and try and be positive just completely fucked it up for everyone.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, but honestly, mate, doing that, oh God, it was just horrendous. And I told you the story on the icebreaker about what was the point of turning for me to sort my health out. And my father was ill. He had to go for a heart surgery in Spain. So me and my brother flew out alternatively to see him.
So this, what you were say, happened when you were doing the driving?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So go on. Sorry, I didn't realize.
So now we get to that kind of end point.
Yeah.
And I was battling all those things I told you with, and I was really suffering with mental health, and I was boozing, and I had all these problems, and I told you all about that. And yeah, Dad went in for a routine heart operation. Spoke to you about, I knew it wasn't going to end well. He ended up dying in hospital and looking after my mum in Spain. She's still there now. I came back from that and I got back in my van and went, right, let's get back to work. I was fucking up to my eyes in debt, divorce, custody, blah, blah, blah. And I got in my van for one day and I couldn't cope. I just crying, just too traumatized, just too sad, just couldn't be alone, just couldn't hit in that depression again. And
when you say you couldn't be alone, you mentioned this in the icebreaker. What do you mean you couldn't be alone? What was the issue?
I like my own space. We all do. But I needed to talk to someone. I was just sat in a van delivering parcels on my own, music playing, just thinking about my dad who just died 3 days before or whatever it was, a week. Couldn't be alone. Couldn't be
alone with your thoughts, basically.
I couldn't cope and everything was just getting, and it wasn't just that. There was a combination of things, of shit. So I did one day, maybe I did 2. And I just said to the missus, I went, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is horrendous. So I went straight onto job search, seen a job for Fitness First in Exeter. It was like the fitness manager. It was 20 grand a year or something. And I went, right, I'm going to bankrupt myself. All that debt that I've just built up over the last 3 or 4 years on credit cards because I had no work and all this. And, going out to Spain for 5 weeks, wipe myself out, start again. And off I went into the gym. And that was the catalyst of working with people, coaching people, positivity, training us back in my pond. I knew what I was doing. I was with the right fish. And that was it. And it springboarded me to, then the gym shut. But at that point, I'd already decided to start coaching and doing what I do now. So it was kind of like, that's cool because I've got out of this what I needed to. And that was 10 months of coaching and energy and working and just doing all the stuff that I love. And that's where I am today, mate. But yeah.
All right, it's back, mate. It's mega. It's I keep saying to refer to yourself as being a doer. It's a I think it's a mindset that a lot of people can open themselves up to and tap into. You will know people like this, and they'll they'll ask, how are you able to get so much done? Why, how have you built such a successful business? Why you are who you are? And I think they think that this comes naturally. It's like a natural, oh, that's just the kind of person they are. No, no, no. There's like an element of it which you will have developed through the time in the military, through hardship, in like the ways that you should not have to develop this stuff, like resilience, you know. But I think the other parts to it are having that realization or that understanding that you're the master of your own destiny most of the time. And there's people who won't want to hear that. There'll be people who want to believe that. Well, my life's the way it is because all of these other things are outside of my control. And the reality is, most of it, you are, for the most part, the master of your own destiny, and whatever you want that to be.
Yeah.
Really, I'm not talking about Oprah style. Oh, manifest your success. No, but you can influence your own life.
Yeah.
You can influence the probability of you being where you want to be.
And this is it, mate. I'm not. I won't hide from the fact that you do get a bit of luck along the way with things in life, and you also do get dealt a bad hand. But you're absolutely right. And in most cases, I do look at things now, and I don't want to. I never want to compare stories to somebody, but the people that come on my podcast and share their stories, there's so many similarities of like hardship and adversity. And whilst you've done this, but I've done this. It's not a competition. I'm just telling you that I can empathize with that, because that story I've just told there, some people will listen to that and really relate to it and go, fuck it. And others might just go, it's all right. But it's all subjective to you. It's subjective to you of how it affects you. What you've done and what affects you might affect me completely different. But all those things I told you about, and I've only, I could sit here for a day and talk about more and how they affected me really, really badly in a very negative way that led to all these problems, from just having a bad ankle, from just having a bit of hip pain, from, loads of people get divorced. The way all that affected me in this and losing my identity was massive, from losing my identity as a PTI, as a coach, as an athlete. I said I was rowing. It fucked me. It completely screwed me. And I look back at it now, and I generally look back in admiration of myself. I do. And I did a podcast the other day for someone, and it was only a short one. And I listened back to it, and I got a bit like choked up listening to me talk about my struggles, because it brought it all back, and it was a bit of a trigger. And I was just like, you've done all right, mate. You've done all right there. And I'm proud of what I've done, of how and now I help people. But yeah, it's important to understand that trauma or adversity is subjective to people. You can't just look at someone and go, oh, let's get on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you, one of the things that I find is super common. It's certainly true for myself, as it sounds like it's true for yourself as well, and most others. I think where you're describing there where everything came to a head. That's a common phrase. Where everything came to a head and just shit went pear shaped. You got real ill, real mentally ill. Now I experienced that as well, and I probably a few times, at least twice. Where it got real bad. But I know now in hindsight that I can trace all of it back to a very early on, when the first adverse event happened, or feeling started, and it was small. It was small. 8 years before when the first time I got real bad, I can trace that back to 8 years before. When, if I'm in the position I am now, if I had this mindset then, it would be I'm not feeling this X, Y, or Z thing, or I recognize this X, Y, or Z thing in me. And if it was happening now, I would deal with it now at the source, when it's a tiny little thing. But then what happened was, then I because I wasn't emotionally aware, I didn't know all the things I know, I didn't have the experiences. That thing went unrecognized and ignored. And then something else happened bigger. And something else happened bigger. And it basically snowballs. And all of a sudden you've got all these different things going on. External influences, internal states, mental, physiological state going on, until one day, over time, all these things get together, get bigger and bigger and bigger, until you can't handle it. You haven't been able to handle it for a long time, but until they manifest this in themselves in this catastrophic way, and you end up like, in front of a doctor, bawling your eyes out, or you end up, having these extreme angry emotive or other emotive reactions, And I think the advantage, one of the reasons I have these conversations and speaking to people like yourself is because, much like you, I don't want other people to go through this stuff. I want them to be able to listen to you and go, fucking hell, he experienced this, that, and the rest. And then maybe in 6 months' time, maybe in 5 years' time, they feel this thing, they experience it, and they're a bit more conscious of it. They remember back to a conversation they heard with Ollie Osbourne on your own podcast or on this, and they go, maybe I should ask the why about that thing. Because this could be a big thing in 6 months' time. Let's nip it in the bud now. It's these things magnify.
This is why my mission statement was very easy to write, and my mission statement is to positively impact and transform as many lives as possible. And I love it because if someone can listen to this and be positively impact, or if I have a person that comes on board as a client and I coach them and I transform their life, but given the chance of PTI to stand up, I love the sound of my own voice, but to positively impact someone from these conversations, I fucking love it because I can just help people by that. And what you said there is like, I also want to promote this message of, what's the right way to say it? Is it don't be reactive? Like, don't wait for a health condition for you to go, oh, I better sort this out. People wait for the wheels to come off before they act upon their health, physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, whatever it is. It's for that positive impact that I want to give to people. It's to say, get a grip of your health, however you want to do that, rather than wait until there's a problem.
There's a flip side to that, right? So we've been talking almost all the way through this about, when we reference it, about preventing ill health, preventing bad things. There is a flip side to it. When you start acting in a way that is, when you start consciously making decisions and taking actions and going and doing small changes as opposed to biting off more than you can chew, making small changes to improve some aspect or aspects about your life that you think you can improve. Not only does it reduce the chances of you having a bad time in future in whatever way that could be, it increases the chances of you having a better time than you would have had if you didn't do anything. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Merely by virtue of the fact that you in your mind decide that you want to make a change about something and then act on that in the smallest way. Today you think, listen to this conversation. Today you think, I'm going to try and shop a little bit better in the shop tomorrow and get more healthy foods, or I'm going to do a bit more fizz tomorrow. I'm going to take myself out for a walk tomorrow because I'm doing nothing at the minute. I feel like shit. I'm going to take myself out for a walk tomorrow. Merely by deciding that you're going to do that, not even having going and doing it tomorrow, having that conversation with yourself in your head, deciding that you're going to do it, that puts you in a better position to deal with things, in a better position to make other good decisions. That's even before you do the goddamn walk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or the run, or whatever it is you want to do, or deciding that you're going to spend less time on your phone tomorrow or tonight.
And I can add to that with a real life example. I had, so when someone was going to go in for some sort of surgery, depending on what it is, I'm very into injury prevention, obviously from an S&C background. I get people doing mobility, flexibility drills throughout the day that they can do that's going to help their bones, their joints, their muscles. If someone goes in for knee surgery, I'm always saying to them, what are you doing now? Oh, I can't do anything now. So surgery won't just suddenly fix it and it'll be fine. You've got to put the work in now. So it's prehab, the rehabilitation, and then rehab afterwards. One example, both my hips, tore both of them, cam deformities, right, knocking away at it. This one I had surgery on. I did fuck all or very little prehab. I just went, this is at the early stages of my rehab where I just went, cool, get that fixed then and off we go. I still got problems with this to this day. Walking into there, I was like, fuck. This one, I went, because I was in a better place in rehab, I went, hold that surgery, wait, because I was in a really good place. And I spent 6 months kicking the arse out of the rehab on this to the point where did I have the same surgery? I can't remember. But the point is, this is a good hip now. And they were both torn because I put the work in before the surgery. Yeah, it's about putting the work in now. Don't just rely on something that's going to fix you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Right, we got a bunch of questions in the chat from the Platinum patrons that we'll get into now, and they've been thrown in throughout the podcast. So dotting around, they are jumping around the topics. Sure.
That's good.
I'm not going to apologize. Okay. What's your favorite meal?
Easy. My missus could answer this. I love a cooked breakfast.
Yeah.
Not a dirty fry up, but a classic English breakfast that's cooked really well.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
Not a dirty fry up. Dirty fry up's a greasy, horrible thing covered in sauce and all
classic
sorts.
English breakfast.
Nah, there's a place. I live in Exeter, and there's a place. I think they're just the southwest branch. They're called Brightside Cafes. You heard of them?
No.
I think they're just southwest. There's one just at the top of the M5, in the southwest, at the bottom of the M5. Sorry, and it looks like a dirty trucker's cafe on the side of the road. Mate, they do the most incredible cooked breakfast. It's the sausages, the bacon's crispy, the eggs are perfect. They use sourdough toast. It's beautiful. Cooked breakfast all day long.
Okay, I'll take your word for
Protein
it.
as well.
I like the filthy one. Okay. Did you experience strange traditions in the Marines? Did they involve nakedness? That is specified in this question.
What's strange what? Traditions?
Yeah, strange
Oh,
traditions.
you're naked all the time.
And the Navy, anyway, is full of strange
The
traditions.
paras not do that. Just get naked all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that's like... just when you join, it's got to be the same in any military. It's got to be. But you need to be comfortable around people in close proximity naked. It's just the way it goes. You're just naked. Like, yeah, just naked bars. But not just that, just blokes just walking around. You're sharing showers together. If you're not comfortable with that, you ain't going to last 5 minutes. True story, right? You must have had this, right?
It's much more, I'd say it's much less common in non-elite units. And when I say an elite, I mean units with a selection process. And that is I think that's from personal experience. You don't see a lot of it outside of bootnecks and power edge and maybe a couple of other units. And also key on that, actually, you don't see a lot in the SF units. You don't get much of it in.
Nah, but you're a trained. Maybe you're a trained soldier, aren't you? And you kind of right. So to answer that with not trying to be funny here. Day one of Royal Marines recruit training must be the same in the paras. You joke about us showering all the time. Day one, you get shown how to shower, how to shave, how to wash your ass, how to pull your foreskin back, how to wash. And you stand there, 40 blokes, 50 blokes, watching your corporal just showing you how to wash, because what they're doing is they're showing you I was 24 years old and I was like, this is fucking weird. Right? I was a prison officer before I joined up. I was a police officer as well. I haven't even spun you that one, have I? Right? And I was stood there watching this man pull his foreskin back and wash his knob. But you've got 16-year-olds there from broken homes who do not know how to administer themselves. And what the Royal Marines are doing is showing you from the absolute Billy basics how to live. So that is the minimum required standard and there is no excuses.
I don't remember getting shown that. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. I don't think it did. But I think it would vary from training team to training team.
And I'll tell you this, and what they do, and this is 2005, there's no way they can do this now. What they'll do is they'll get a load of Vegemite or Marmite or Nutella and they'll stick it up their arse and they'll bend over and everyone's like, oh. And bearing in mind, you are literally or they get like cream cheese and stick it under their foreskin, right? Listen, you've literally just come off the train at Lympstone and you've carried your suitcase up the hill, you've been shouted at, and within an hour, you're watching some bloke bend over with Nutella up his arse and you're like, what the fuck have I joined here? True story.
What advice would you give someone experiencing divorce?
Takes two to tango. I get on now well with my ex-wife. I'm together with someone, we're getting married. She's with someone, they're buying a house. It's been 6.5 years and it took us 5 years to get to that point. She was an arse. I was an arse. Unless there's something, I think you've got to take a step back and have a genuine look in the mirror. Are you as white as you make out? Because it takes two to tango. And if you've got kids, you need to make it work. And what I've also experienced, even if I didn't have the kids, you just got to get on with people. And the past is the past. You can make a clean break. But the stress that I went through with her, and she would have done with me, is oh, fucking hell, like making me really, really ill amongst all the things that I said. And I look back at it now and go, there's no way I was perfect. I was a cock. But because you're fighting, aren't you? You're fighting. So yeah, make it work. Life is more simple.
Being in an elite unit, the Marines look down on civilians and other military. Ben Griffin, ex-para, SAS. In fact, Toby may know Ben, actually. So Ben said paras hated civilians, called them civvy, see you next Tuesdays, and hated the rest of the military.
Ben's asking that.
Coke is asking that, and he's referencing Ben Griffin.
Oh, right. I know a Ben Griffin, but I don't. He never joined. He never joined up. He was one of Toby's best mates from school. No, I would have known if he had joined up. Sorry, do the question
Ben
again.
went to two-para.
Oh, right. I would have known that.
Yeah. So the question was, being in an elite unit, do Marines look down on civilians and other military?
Yes, 100%. I do. There's always that rivalry between the paras and the Corps, paras and the Royal Marines. Some somewhat friendly, some somewhat unfriendly, but because they're deemed as apart from special forces, the paras and the Marines are deemed as the more elite of the armed forces. That's the truth. Look at the length of the course, look at the nature of the course, look at the jobs that they do. Maybe not so much in recent years because a lot of the army have done a lot of jobs that paras and Marines have done. But yeah, I think any unit you join, even if you join the Devon and Dorset Donuts, it will be drilled into you, you're the best, because you've got that pride, the badge, the cat badge of what you're representing. So I think with any unit you get that, but what you call people crap outs, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we call people? No idea. Call us Seats, don't you?
Cabbage heads.
Yeah.
Cabbage heads, yeah.
Yeah. But no, you do. I never was arrogant enough to be that elitist, and I don't now. I think armed forces, but Royal Marines training is the longest infantry training in the Western world.
Yeah. Doesn't make it the toughest, does it? Are there people in politics or the military that should be held to account for military suicide?
100%. I posted something last week on my socials asking this exact question. I put the lad called Craig Ainsworth took his life. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
I didn't know Craig. I was a connection with him. He was my era. He was a coach. He was a fucking coach, helping other people. There was another guy called another guy called McCoy Turner, who was a Navy PTI. Sorry. This is it. This is powerful. So I don't know about Craig. Craig took his own life a couple of weeks ago, very publicly on social media, it fucked a lot of people up, myself included, and I didn't even know him. McCoy took his life 5 weeks ago, and he's got 2 young boys, and that's why it's fucking hard to talk about. Sorry, mate.
All right, take a minute.
Yeah, so you can see the effect it has on the military and the veteran community when people have got children, and McCoy was a coach as well, and he took his own life, and it was just like, what the fuck? There's no warning signs for people that are going to go and do these things. So to answer the question, I posted this on social media and asked this exact question. The system is broken. The system doesn't work. There is an enormous amount of support out there. The Royal Marines charity, all the other charities out there, they are doing exceptional jobs. But why is it not working? Why is the system not working? Why is this happening? And I think you have to go back to the government, to the armed forces, and ask that question. And the people with the power need to start fucking doing something. And I don't know what the answer is. And this was the meeting I went to last night that I told you about. This was spoken about. And I've had meetings with people in the last couple of weeks about some bits and pieces to do with this. So it's too early to say, but there are people trying, but people don't know. But those 2 cases were very, as you just saw, relative to me, because who they were, what they did, the similarities to me, the generation, they were coaches, children, and it's fucking the Craig Ainsworth thing. And I know it affected so many people.
I didn't see what he posted.
So Craig posted on Facebook, and it was the first fucking thing that I opened on my phone on a Saturday morning with coffee in bed with my little girl sitting there. Opened up my phone and I looked on Facebook, and it was there, and it was a suicide note. And I sat there. I didn't know Craig. I'm going to pretend to be his best mate. I didn't know him. I just knew him from social media and whatnot. And loads of people had jumped on the post. It was only 26 minutes old, and it was a suicide note. And loads of people had jumped on it saying, pick up your phone, Craig. I'm calling you. I'm calling you. And I made the decision not to do anything because I was like, well, I don't actually know him. And I felt a bit like, and I kind of went and cracked on with my day. And then I opened up my phone in the evening and went, oh, he's killed himself. I'm not blaming myself because loads of people had tried to get in touch with him, and it was the point of no return, but it was fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah. I think when when you've been in a position like yourself, for myself, in terms of how dark things have got for us, when I think of people who've taken their lives, and especially when I know people, what gets me is the the level of pain there must have been to decide to do that is indescribable. You know, I've experienced, I would just call it pain, mental pain, which I would say is indescribable. So what they experienced to actually go and do that and take their own lives, I shudder to think what they went through. And then it's compounded by that impact on people is compounded by that, you know, Craig Ainsworth sounded like an amazing guy, you know, and then you add on if these people have got families and what they're leaving behind. And then again, you calculate all that into the decision they're making.
Yeah.
What must they have been going through? How hard must things have been in their head?
Yeah.
How much pain must they have been dealing with for how long?
Yeah.
No one should have to go through that.
And
no one should have to go through
the reason I got a bit upset there was because I've got children, you've got children, and I the way my brain operates, I'm fucked up, mate, honestly. I sit there and beat myself up and voluntarily put myself in a situation where I try and think what it must be like for my children. And it's like, well, why are you doing that? I don't know why. I just do it, and that's why I get really upset about these incidents. And the story I've just told you, Hugh, over the last couple of hours, I was at a low point. It was subjective to me, mate. I was not even close to even contemplating suicide. Not even fucking close. And I was at a very, very, very low point. So like you just said, fuck me. I thought I was at the lowest point, but clearly not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if you are someone who's listening to this and you've experienced that before, or maybe you're experiencing like real low point in your life now, I know that one of the hardest things to do, is actually to speak to anyone about it. The last thing you want to do is discuss it with people. You were talking, Ollie, about, you know, not wanting to be around anyone at one point.
Yeah.
Not wanting to engage with people.
So it's too easy just to, and this is the thing. I was going to say, pick up the phone. It's too easy to say that. I get that it's not, this is the thing. What do we do? This is why I don't know the fucking answer. So it goes back to politician level, government level, armed forces. What is the answer?
Well, I'm going to disagree with you there. So for a person who's like that, I get it. Like, don't pick up the phone. I remember when I was real bad for a long time, and a friend said to me after a specific point, he said, "Why the fuck didn't you pick up the phone to me? You know, why didn't you say anything?" I said, "Mate, because the last thing I want to do is speak to anyone." You know, and there'd be people who would ring me and say, and the first thing that come out of their mouth would be, "How are you?" I bullshit every time.
Yeah.
That's if I picked up the phone.
Yeah.
If I picked up the phone, bullshit. Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, all good. The last thing I want to do is say, I'm not good. The last thing I want to do is express perceived weakness.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, you know, if I got to that point again, or my advice to other people is, if you don't want to pick up the phone to people you know, if you are not happy with where you are now, and maybe, you know, and well done for even listening to something like this all the way through, if you're in that mental state, my advice is you go to someone neutral, you go to someone you don't know, and that is a GP, you go to a doctor. And if you don't even, and maybe the barrier they put in your head right now, because this is what the brain does when you're really ill, is it puts barriers in place. All logic works against you because you can't do that. There's things that it gives you reasons not to go and seek help. Maybe you don't know the phone to your surgery. Maybe you don't know the process to go and book an appointment with your GP. Well, go to the fucking hospital. Literally go to the hospital, walk in and ask for help. You will get it. Go to a neutral party. But the worst thing you can do is do nothing. The worst thing you're doing, if you know that you aren't well, maybe you don't know the reasons why. You don't know why you are the way you are, but you know you're not well. The worst thing you do is do nothing. Because all you're going to do is sink further down. It's literally going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And it's going to get worse. And there is always a decision point. There's always a decision point that will change what happens to you next. And that decision point is no one else's. It's down to you. You have to do something about it. You know, you did it, at least twice you've described in this, making decisions yourself to go and do it. And it's fucking incredibly difficult.
I went to the
it's
doctor.
Not easy.
Yeah. I went to the doctor and I just said, help. And then just had a meltdown.
It was similar. It was similar for me. I won't go into it now at the end, but it's similar for me. Went in, didn't know what was wrong, didn't know how to describe it, didn't know what the fuck was going on or how I could get out of it. But I went to someone and did the same thing basically, and things have worked out better than what they would have. So anyway, right. What's your podcast?
Beyond the Battlefield is not a fun question to end on.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's all right.
It's
been great chat, mate.
I love it. My podcast is called Beyond the Battlefield. It is Warrior Wellness Movement, which is, of course, my business, which you just search on YouTube. It is on other channels. It's quite new. We've done 12 episodes. Veterans coming on speaking about...
the podcast is quite new. The business isn't quite new.
Business
is well established.
Yeah. No, but the podcast is relatively new, but I love it. I like sitting on the other side of this because I do obviously what you do. I find you've been doing this a lot longer than me. I feel under pressure when I'm the interviewer to make sure the questions are good. It's easy as the guest. You just talk.
Oh, I find it harder as the guest.
Really?
Yeah.
I just sit and talk.
No, I find it harder.
I did one in Budapest and it was great. I just spoke. But Beyond the Battlefield, go and search Warrior Wellness Movement on YouTube.
What's the website, mate?
Website?
Yeah.
warriorwellnessmovement.com.
Okay.
No, it's not. .co.uk. No, it's not. It's .com. Fucking hell, I don't even know my own business.
Yeah.
.com, it's got to be. But yeah, speaking to veterans, and it's talking about things that we've just spoken about. It's talking about stories of adversity and resilience. There's always a comeback. There's always got to be a comeback. I can't have blokes just dripping. There's a comeback because it's to positively impact people. And it's cool. We get some fascinating stories.
Yeah.
So.
I'll put a link to the podcast and to the Warrior Wellness website in the blurb of this episode.
Thank you.
So have a look at it after and go on to that. And is there anything we haven't mentioned that you wanted to mention specifically?
Talk all day, mate, but thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Next time you're in town, mate, just try and find another chance to get it done. You're welcome in at any time. And
we'll see how well this one's received.
Yeah. And good luck with it all, dude.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it, Hugh.
Bosh.